Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our little ball of mud. I think it's our 17th episode. I'm here today with Jeff Howard, an old friend of mine that I've known for years and who just kind of took off and made something wonderful happen in Kansas City. And we were in recovery together back in the day and climbed a mountain and together with John Manning, urging us on. And so John said, how about Jeff? And he's got this recovery center going in
Kansas
City. And I said, yay. And so I called you, and
here I am in Arizona.
And here I am in
Arizona.
And we haven't seen each other forever.
It's been decades.
And I know, and you're looking wonderful.
Thank you.
And wonderful and healthy, and it was a pleasure meeting your wife.
Yes, very blessed.
What's her name again?
Ruth Boyer.
Ruth.
Yes.
She's over there on the bed just kind of hanging out, watching this whole thing take place.
Yeah.
My Lord. How did you do that? What happened that came to your mind? I mean, know why you're here on the planet,
sure.
Right? Which is the, topic of our show. What transpired back at that, 2 decades ago to move you in that direction, buddy? I'm so proud of you. I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
Okay, so
the story started off, I grew up in Arizona, moved here from Iowa, and quickly became associated with marijuana, which was a staple. I was a member of NORML in the 70s. It was the first formal organization I ever bought into. It's National Organization for Reform of Marijuana Laws.
Oh, okay.
I was an adolescent at that time, but I thought that would be a mainstay of my life. And I am the youngest of 5 children.
Mm-hmm.
So my father was an entrepreneur without a high school education, but had been a executive with Hy-Vee Markets back in the Midwest and started his own supermarkets here. Ended up those going bankrupt as I was going through high school.
What were the names of his?
The stores here in Arizona were Howard's Markets, and he was like friends with people like John F. Long. And I think that there's always the story that I remember about my father, not a flattering story, but I was 13 years old. This was starting to go on, and he was the first person to physically assault me with a right hook. He was a Golden Glove boxer in his youth and knocked me out. And I remember running away from home at that age.
What age were you at that point?
13, 14. I remember running away from home.
Were you using the marijuana at that time?
It became heavier at that time.
Okay.
But I remember holding my ear and running down the alley, and I heard my father yell at me, "You come back here and fight like a man, you pussy." And I couldn't hear anything out of my left ear, and when I pulled it away, there was blood on my hand. And I thought to myself, the only way I'll have any worth to this person is if I'm really tough. I gotta be tougher. But I'm not going home until I'm tougher. And so I lived part of my freshman year away from home.
What high school?
It was Agua Fria out in the West Valley,
Wow.
Avondale. Yeah. Right. So, continued school, finally came back home. But I had...
Who were you living with?
I was living with a friend of mine that had a trailer in Avondale.
Okay.
Very squalor. But it was much better than getting hit. So I liked that.
Well, you were in training.
Yeah. So yes, yeah. And have lived in squalor oftentimes after that. Anyhow, the disease of addiction progressed all the way through to when I got to my 80s. I had been married and divorced. I was working for the family business, and I had friends that I went to high school with that we were selling marijuana back in the Midwest and bringing cocaine back to Arizona. And we thought we were cool, a little Miami Vice stuff going on. And, oh, I bet that's Leslie. That's my second ex-wife. Or maybe it's housekeeping. I don't know. But anyhow, it turned into a fiasco. My two best friends from high school, one of them did 5 years flat in a federal penitentiary for interstate transport, which was that process, and the other one in 95 got gangland murdered on a cocaine deal. He was shot 5 times, once in each shoulder,
Oh, my Lord.
once in each thigh, and then the last one through his head.
Here in Arizona?
Here in Arizona, it was off of Van Buren. It was Scotty Bulfer, and I got clean. I got clean initially in
Because it
88.
scared you so much?
No, this was before that happened because I was just done with the lifestyle and I really
Oh,
wanted to
okay,
change.
okay.
But I was an IV drug addict for a long time, and they started flitting around with heroin, and I got clean. I did a geographical transfer to Hawaii. I moved there and lived on Maui for a year. Helped a guy named Tommy Rhodes do a recovery center. I went there, learned yoga and massage therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and anyhow, Tony was not clean, but he was running a treatment center, and I was doing admissions for him, and finally came back to California a year later and went to work for the family business for a little bit, and it went bankrupt again, so it was another one of Dad's big entrepreneurial endeavors that turned out bad. It actually turned out really horrible with,
Just give us a moment.
yeah.
Okay, welcome back.
we had a pause. Too much
Yeah,
self-disclosure. It's like,
Okay, so, all right. And then,
so the food manufacturing business that Dad had bought in Southern California, he'd created a union strike there, and I worked that union strike for him. I was 19 years old, so this was before Hawaii, and the building got burned down, and one of the security guards there died, and I saw him. I was there that morning to open up the plant, and I saw, so, I've got the violence from the dad, which is basically, if I can kick your ass, I'm right, is the lesson that was taught there. And then with the union strike, and it was pretty much like, if you're not a secured creditor, then there's no way you can hold me accountable. And my drug addiction increased from there as we went into the 80s and finally got clean, did the geographic to Hawaii. And rather than go back to work for the family business, I went to nursing school in 1990, and I stayed clean through 1997.
I remember that.
I had a assisted living center that I bought with a signature and $5,000 in Mesa, Arizona, called Royal Assisted Living Center. And that was because the person that owned it, I was like, during that clean time, I graduated as a Nightingale nurse of my rotation. I was a good nurse, an LPN, really liked that business, did well with it. In 1997, I was married to my third wife, and I had a little girl, Sarah Jean, and I decided that I wasn't an alcoholic anymore. And so I started drinking, and they talk about the disease of addiction as being progressive and incurable and fatal. And for me, my disease of addiction picked up rapidly from there, from 1990.
From the alcohol.
Yeah,
as
from the
you
alcohol
started.
right back into crack cocaine and heroin, drug running. In 1997 to 2002, I bankrupted that company. I was going through my third divorce, and was really at death's door. And so the truth for me is that I didn't think that I was worthy to get clean. I didn't think I could get clean. traumatic event that brought all of it to the first epiphany in my recovery process that's created these treatment centers and my desire to work in recovery was I couldn't get my 5-year-old daughter to kindergarten. And her mom was in treatment, and she came over to pick her up and told me what a not so happy, good dad I was. As a matter of fact, the line I remember was, the world would be a better place without you breathing air in it.
Mm.
And the reality for me is that I thought that that was absolutely true. I don't believe, I don't know that that's really what Gail said. We're really good friends 20 years after that, but the truth is that at that time, that's how I felt.
It had a,
It had an
whatever she
impact.
said, it had an impact.
It had an impact. I sat there for several hours and contemplated suicide. And the only thing that stopped me from splattering my brains against the wall was I called a friend of mine in Narcotics Anonymous and said, I think I need help. I think I want to do something different. And he said, you know, I'd love to help you, but it's really hard to do anything with you, Jeff, because you're kind of an arrogant, ego-based asshole. And I really don't think you'll take any direction. And I said, okay, well, I'm asking for help. Tell me what it is you want me to do. And this was on May 7th of 2002. And he gave me some marching orders. There was a meeting involved. There was an IOP group with UA testing. There was turning in my nursing and healthcare administrator's license to the IOP. If I popped dirty anytime during that 1-year program, they would turn me in. And I did all that. And then the next day, I had some receivables come into this assisted living center that I'd acquired in '97, and the receivables came in. I was taking a breath. I'm like going, I can't do this. Constitutionally incapable of being honest, and I'm going to go get high, but I did promise this friend of mine in NA that I'd call him. So I called him and said that to him. I said, you know, Tim, I'm constitutionally incapable of being honest. I'm going to go get high. And he said, that's not true, because you just called me and told me you were going to go get high. You are capable of being honest. You just don't want to be. You don't want to be. And I'd love to spend more time with you, but a good friend of ours in NA, Frank S., had just died that morning. And I called. He died on my clean date. And Frank used to say things to me, because he would have been my grand sponsor in that instance, but before that he'd been a counselor for me. And he used to say to me, Jeff, the only person who doesn't think you're worthy of a wonderful life is you. And you're your biggest detriment. You are your own impediment in order to, because you can do this thing. And so it moved me forward to, I started a treatment program in Arizona in 2002. So my first year clean, don't suggest it for anybody, but it was called the River Source 12-Step Holistic Naturopathic Treatment Center. And I had a contract with a naturopathic medical doctor, Dr. Dave Arneson, and we started bringing people into the assisted living center that was going bankrupt and had a lien on it from the IRS, because from 97 to 2002, while I was using drugs, I had created a $100,000 tax deficit. And I mean, I think it's important, you know, that wreckage never went away. I've dealt with people from Nogales that are much nicer to deal with than the IRS. So pay your taxes, be good. You know, and so we put together this program, and all of a sudden it started really becoming successful. Nutritional medicine and 12-step processes are beneficial to people in early recovery, and it turned out to be a pretty big deal. My mom was managing all my finances and had a 5-year power of attorney over me. She'd made it perfectly clear to me that she would help me with this, but if any time during that 5 years I relapsed again, any of my assets would be liquidated. I could live in a box under a bridge, and she was going to liquidate those assets and make sure my daughter got to college. And I'm like going, I'm in, you know. And so as we did that, it progressed. I remember in 2005, one of the epiphanies for me is my older brother Don, who had a bachelor's in business administration, had a head injury in '90, and so it's like 15 years later, and oftentimes during that 15 years I'd been his primary guy that was managing
His relationship
life.
was what to you?
He was my older brother, Tom.
Oh.
And so he went from being this hero guy to this
Mhm.
person who couldn't stop using every time he did have a grand mal seizure. And I was walking through this treatment center, and he was in the kitchen making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and I'm just saying, I'm sorry. But what I said at the time was, he said to me, hey, Jeff, I've got 30 days clean. And I dismissed him because I was worried about this IRS debt, and I had all this stuff, and it's like, don't you know who I am? And that night, he went home, went to bed clean. I went home, and I got a call in the morning. They couldn't wake him up, and when I got there, he had died. So it became really imperative
And
to me.
they ascertained that it was from the head injury?
It was a cerebral aneurysm.
Oh, okay.
From the seizures and using played a part of it. He died from the
Right,
disease,
right,
but he
right.
didn't have any chemicals in his system. But the epiphany to me was in early recovery, because at that point in time I was coming up on 3-4 years clean, is that I needed to make sure that I never got too ego-based in this recovery thing. You know, just because I could stay clean didn't mean that other people weren't going to struggle with it. And the reality of it is that anybody that gets one day clean is a miracle, and we need to honor that. So it was 2007, and my mom, as my office manager, we're coming in. I'm making amends to her, and a guy from Mesa Bank saw what we were doing with addicts and had somehow heard about us, and came in and started helping me for no remuneration to work on this IRS debt and getting a loan. And so it was amazing, because out of nowhere, I had like a 300 credit score when I came back into the ranch in 2000.
Mhm.
Couldn't buy a pizza, you know,
Mhm.
not the case today, but the reality of it is that it got better over that 3 to 4 years. And on my 5th year, Zion Bank out of Utah refinanced my whole building and allowed me to pay off that IRS tax debt and pay back Mom some of the money that she'd lent the agency. And you know, so
What a
miracles. You just keep
load.
going with these God-shot coincidences, and it's certainly always my belief that that this good orderly direction thing is an individual person's responsibility, not opportunity, responsibility to develop that, right? You know, it's just like, I'm not going to tell you what that should be. I'm going to tell you, if you ask me, what mine looks like, and it comes closer and closer to me every day as being the truth. And the truth is that you take this all the way away from it. My mom passed away from squamous cell carcinoma. We found out about it in 2007 after my brother had passed away, and she came to me with a sore throat, being a nurse in the family, and I took her to an ear, nose, and throat doctor because she was going, you know, she was pushing it off, an Iowa farm girl or Missouri farm girl, and, you know, just stout. She's not going to go to the doctor. And I made her go, and she had stage 4 cancer in her throat. And we walked her through that, and on May 9th, was it 2008 or 7?
I think it was 8.
2008, May 9th was the day after my clean date. She passed away in hospice out in Mesa. And I remember the day before, I picked up my 6-year medallion. And in earlier recovery, I had bought a jewel box for Mom. And had a really cool song on it. And so every year when I got a medallion, I'd bring it in and I'd give it to my mom. And we'd put it in her box together, you know, just to thank her for helping to save my life, because she was a black belt Al-Anon. You know, she had really solid boundaries, and they saved my life. So that being said, and jumping around like I am in this share, the day that I put my 6-year medallion in her box, she came out of her drug palliative care state and looked at me and said, Jeff, I love you. I'm so proud of you. Stay clean. Remember, your 9th step amends was that you were going to continue to stay clean and go to meetings. That's what I asked you for, and that's what you said you'd do. And you'd help as many other people get clean as you can. So, it continues on. I sold the business after Mom died. It's still in business today. It's the River Source out in Arizona City. Sold it to an MBA from ASU. Liked the guy. He was really fair to me. I made a chunk of change off of it. Lost a lot of it in real estate in 8 and 9, but got out of the treatment industry after I sold it about a year later because it was just too heartbreaking for me, but I stayed in recovery. And so I was doing real estate, and then I decided I was going to go finish off my RN programming. Went back to Mesa Community College, was doing my prereqs, and got a job working for another treatment center here in town just as a nurse. And I worked for them for a month, and they made me a community service clinician, which was kind of a mid-management job, and that was fun. And then I got headhunted to do an executive director up in Prescott for a treatment center that wanted to go residential and build a detox. And I'm kind of good at that stuff, and I like recovery, and I got up there, and it turned out to be like this 92-bed residential center, really, really large, lots of big money behind it, and opened up a 8-bed detox that I believed wholeheartedly in, had a piece of it, and what I found is that commercial big dollar treatment is not necessarily what I like to do, and at that point in time I had enough self-esteem that I remember it was 2015. I was making more money than I'd ever made in my adult life, and I went to my significant other in her beautiful house on the hill in Prescott and said, you know what, if I keep working for this agency and it's just about money, I'm going to die. And she said, don't die. And I'm like, okay. So got together a crew. Geffen Lieberman's a partner of mine, Kevin O'Grady, partners. We put together a small war chest. We didn't have a lot of money, and went to Kansas City and started.
Why?
Because I didn't want to work for anybody else. And what I love is
Casey.
Kansas City was a place that Geffen had been to, and I was at a men's retreat with he and Ben Galloway.
Okay.
And Ben Galloway.
Oh, Ben.
I love Ben. Ben. So,
Ben.
yeah, I did my childhood origin stuff with Ben, and it was like, it took me, I'm going to jump all the way back to 2004 doing childhood
When he
work.
was riding the motorcycle.
Yeah, and Ben and I were doing this work together, and he was kind of a gestalt guy. What do you think? And everybody was one of those lovely men in your life. And I came back to, like, the realization at 44, by using the step process and having an outside therapist, came back to the fact that I was still living with shame over stuff that my father had done that I had no part of. And I was carrying it with me, and it was carried into my interactions with other people. It was carried into my relationships. Had 3 divorces. It's just like, it was like not pretty what this was doing to me. And unless I'd stayed clean for that time and actually was willing to peel the onion, I would have never, ever seen that. So I was up at Galloway's place in Payson, and we were hanging out in northern Arizona, beautiful, and Geffen Lieberman was there. And Ben asked me, this was like, he just passed away from cancer 3-4 years ago. Loved Galloway, but before he even knew that it was that serious, he asked me, he said, okay, so Jeff, what do you want to do with the rest of your career? Because it's like, you're pretty highly touted in this industry. You've got like you got big money. Everybody knows you're doing well. And I'm like going, I can't stay working for these people. I have to do something else. And he said, well, what would it be? And I laid out this extended care 1-year treatment program, gender specific, so long term. Because what's come to me through these years of staying gender specific, so I can do men and women, but in gender specific housing.
Oh, so separated housing.
Except for detox residential, it's co-ed, but So anyhow, I laid this whole program out, and Geffen said you should try Kansas City. So I flew out here in September. I just finished the Joint Commission survey for this treatment up north, and if anybody that knows what that is, it means everybody was having high blood pressure and heart palpitations because it's a big deal. And I wasn't, because I was leaving after I got the Joint Commission survey done. So anyhow, I had fun with that. I got it done. We passed with flying colors, and then I said I'm leaving. It's not that I don't like you guys. It's that I don't want to work for anybody but myself and the people that I choose to work with. And I love you guys. Please don't take that as a negative connotation of you. Want to be friends always, but I got to do something else. And so I went to Kansas City. 16, 17, we almost went bankrupt half a dozen times. It was cold. 17, 18, we started getting traction.
What was impinging on you to, I mean, you were sitting in a seat of, maybe not wealth, but at least the financial aspects were balanced for you.
Sure.
Was it any aspect of relationships? Was it the structure of the foundation that you had going up there? But something took you from, I got to get out of here and do something else. And what was going on at that point, that caused you to say, all right, this is now going to be done for me? That's a big thing for people.
There was a administrative meeting in which one of the higher ranking people within the agency made it pretty clear how they disliked addicts and their families and how dysfunctional that was. And there was no way for me to change that. But what I want you guys to know is I'm an addict. I'm coming up on 20 years clean, and I don't talk about what fellowship I go to because that's a break of the traditions.
Right.
I don't want anybody to think if I fail at this that a fellowship is broken. But here's the reality for me is that I believe that the process of recovery is an opportunity to save someone's life. I believe that the process of recovery is an ongoing journey. It's not, like poof, I got clean. Getting clean is easy. Learning to manifest a life to where you can live through trials and tribulations, the death of loved ones, the death of people you sponsor, and stay clean, financial success, financial not success. Learning to do that without falling back to self-defeating negative patterns of behaviors is a gift, and that I didn't want to work in that arena corporately anymore, where my worth was based on dollar. And I have some people in early recovery that work at missions with me at MRC. Their salary doesn't change regardless of how many people they bring in or don't bring in. Heads in beds is not what drives us, but saving lives is. And I believe that's, and as the CEO of Midwest Recovery Centers in Kansas City, I have the ability to look at a family's situation and go, this is what this program costs. This is what your insurance will do. I really want to be helpful. What can you do? And tell me. And one of the things that we do differently at MRC that's become more and more common was
MRC is the name.
Midwest Recovery Centers in Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's actually the Betty Lou Wallace legacy, DBA, Midwest Recovery Centers. And if you look on the website, there's a letter there to my mom. But when I look at that financial picture, based on the person's motivation and the family's fight, I can adjust it right there. I can scholarship right there, whatever I need to do to make sure that that person gets into treatment. But then I will tell them in no uncertain terms that when I do that, they're still responsible for the heavy lifting. They have to do the heavy lifting.
They're
We can
still
show them how.
responsible for their own happiness.
Yeah, nobody can do that. So when you talk to me about this, you were talking to John about doing the rivers, and it's like I've ran the canyon with John a half a dozen times. We've swam together in the Colorado, not intentionally. But I remember the first time I looked at lava with him, and we looked off the side of the ledge down into the largest navigable whitewater rapid in the North American continent. And I look at it with John, and I've got all this information. I looked at him and I said, John, we could die doing this. And John looked at me and he said, did you think you're going to live forever? And I'm like going, no. And you know what? So let's just go. Yada hey. But when I saw what you were doing, and it's like, I'm like going, yeah, I think I know my purpose. I think I know why I'm here. I'm here to help as many people as I can on an ongoing basis get to this process of acknowledgement and recovery without trying to shame or guilt them into it, but trying to encourage and love them into this positive process. And that is so important. Last year we were voted for the Kansas City, Missouri Chamber of Commerce, the top 10 small businesses and top 10 CEOs of the year. So I feel really like good. I had to pull teeth to get our detox residential program opened, and we have, and it's been just record breaking. It's just like and the financial success, stay right sized. Because I believe everybody has an infinite right to this happy, healthy life. I just could never find it using. Even though there were glimpses of this euphoria, they went away. And it's like, I have seen so many people die trying to recreate that with substances. And what I've found for myself is, and it's demonstrated by today, I've got my second ex-wife that just walked in here, sitting with my current wife, and they are some of the most beautiful people in the world. My third ex-wife we had dinner with last night with my stepdaughter, and that's all based on this 12-step moral psychology, this truthful way of looking at how I think. Now. I am absolutely trustworthy. It's like it, and I believe that it's our duty when we become successful like this to try and help as many other people find this level as we can. I think our compassionate for each other is so important, and it can get lost in what's in my 401k or my SEP, or what are the stocks doing, and it's like, okay.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, just be present and try and genuinely love. And you've got to start that parenting process with yourself.
Okay, so take a minute now.
Okay.
Because we're
coming to the end. Have I went too long? You
No,
guys are going, we're going to have to cut
no,
this
but
down.
I want you to take just a moment and just imagine now that you're talking to somebody out there. What's your message to them personally? Look at the camera and just say, look, folks.
Okay, so if you or someone you love is suffering from the disease of addiction or alcoholism, ask for help. And don't be ashamed to ask for help. This disease, I believe, I don't know if mine was socially or genetically, doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. What matters is there is a solution to it, and I'm not saying it's an easy solution. I'm saying it's simple. We continue to talk about it, and we don't enable our loved ones to continue to harm themselves in a negative manner in front of us. And, I do interventions all the time and work with families, and I got to tell you, don't love your child to death, okay? They don't need friends if they suffer from this disease and you're trying to help them. What they need are parents. And parents set down rules and guidance, and we either follow those or we're not going to play.
But don't hit them to make them stronger.
No, don't hit anybody. Hitting's not ever okay. And just because I could kick somebody's ass doesn't mean I'm right. That was a broken lesson, you know. And screwing the unsecured creditor is not a good play because then it means you're not trustworthy. And when those things were demonstrated and presented to me, they were wrong. And it doesn't mean that he was a bad person. You know, he died the year after my mom did. And honestly, it wasn't super impactful to me. Namaste. Yeah, but I've got to tell you, I still honor my mother's passing because I named the treatment center in Kansas City after her. Yeah, Betty Lou Wallace Legacy, DBA Midwest Recovery Center.
Nice.
Plaques on the walls.
Thank you.
I hope that was
So
okay.
much. Oh, it was
Yes,
wonderful. Thank you.
I'm sorry if I got a little teary-eyed.
No.
Yeah.
No, that's the things that you said about it. That's why we're doing what we're doing
Yeah.
with this. It's a lot simpler than what you've got going, but it's heartfelt and
It's beautiful. It's beautiful giving, you know, people. It's amazing. I've done 2 interviews with news channels, and we have a TV commercial in Kansas City now. It's just local. But the 2 TV interviews I've done, at both of them, I've made it specifically clear that I'm an addict in long-term recovery, and I refuse to have any shame over it. And I don't believe that I've recovered. I don't think I ever will. I think that this process of recovery is a lifetime process, and I'm not going to buy that I'm a second-class citizen because I suffer from the disease of addiction, because I got type 2 diabetes too, and you know what, I manage that pretty well. So, yeah, I think this is a good play. I'm sure you'll be successful at it. So. And I'm always grateful to help. So anything I can do, I would be more than happy to.
thank you.
You bet. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you. Thank you, folks, for tuning in and watching our show. Be sure to join. What's the word? Huh?
Subscribe.
Subscribe. Do subscribe. I have a false thing in my mouth here, so I have trouble with certain sounds. God bless everybody. Be safe out there, and remember, you're always 100% responsible for your own happiness. Keep looking. And now, as a final gesture, and Maggie, there's the pen behind you. Now, Jeff,
Yes.
this is an extra large. Look at it.
It looks wonderful. So.
Does it look like it would fit you?
Yes.
Or to be too big for you?
No, I'm sure it'll be fine.
Because I have on a large,
Yes.
and this is the first time I've worn it.
You look very dapper.
Would you like to have the large?
I would probably wear a large before I would an extra.
Okay.
Okay. But I don't want to
He'll give you
be.
the shirt off his back.
I'll give you the shirt off my back, and I'll sign this shirt.
Sign this shirt for me, because I don't want to miss the signed shirt. That's pretty cool, because you're like a move. Give it to me, so.
That's right.
Just pull it off right now. We're good. Oh, look, he's going to do the big unveil. Ah, you're such a monster. That's what yoga does for you. Look at that.
All right, so Maggie, I want to introduce everybody once again to my partner, Maggie, who is my camera person and advises me on all things that I do in this show.
Is he doing good?
He's doing awesome.
Yeah.
My monstrous.
Look at that.
All right,
How cool is that?
I know, isn't that fun? All right, so first we start out.
It's episode 17. Make sure to put that on there, Sean.
Oh,
And then send this to me. You know what I'm going to do is if you give me permission, I'll put it on my website. for Midwest Recovery Centers as part of my new stuff.
Let me see. Number
17. Oh, I love you too.
2021.
Good job, buddy. Thank you.
That's for you. Thank you, Jeff.
You bet.
Know why you're here, or you're just paying bills?
Yeah, I love it.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Be sure and tune in again.
Thank you.